All right, so the viral topic right now is Druski. Druski, he did Whiteface. So he showed up in a whiteface with like a mullet, beard, overalls, even a like farmer's tan, right? And it's getting mixed reactions. Some call it funny, others are calling it racist. But the question is, why is America inconsistent about what's offensive in comedy? All right. So this is what happened. Druski, he went undercover as a stereotypical white NASCAR fan. Now the online is kind of split. Most people are kind of praising it for satire, but others, mostly conservatives, are kind of outraged about it, even going as far as calling it reverse racism. So the reason why Druski is doing this isn't because he's some kind of he's doing some kind of activism. His real goal is just to go viral, virality. If you get outrage, it drives clicks. You're going to get booked more. That's what it's really all about. So the question is it offensive? Yes, it is offensive. It's offensive to poor, rural whites who feel mocked. And hey, that's valid. If you're offended by something, who am I to tell you whether or not to be offended? But my question is it the same as blackface? No, it's not the same as blackface. See, blackface was a historic tool of Jim Crow to humiliate blacks. And this eventually led to laws to get put in place that were discriminatory towards blacks. But whiteface doesn't really have that same systemic legacy. There aren't any laws that are created or any discrimination that's really tied to whiteface. So let's get into it. So the thing is, white comedians like Kimmel, Fallon, even Saturday Night Live, they always used to have these segments where they use blackface, and black folks were told, hey, stop being so sensitive. So Druski, he flips it. Now outrage is coming from conservatives. So the point is, you can't demand toughness from a marginalized group. Let's just say black people, when you see Fallon or you see Kimmel or you see SNL skits and say, hey, you guys are just being too sensitive. There's nothing wrong with a little joke here and that now and then, right? So you can't demand toughness on one end from one group and sensitivity for another group. This is the problem with comedy and the obstacles that comedy is facing. A lot of comedians are facing. It's like, how do I become funny without offending one group or the other? So if it's funny, what defines funny and what's defines? So I'll get into that. So there's a lot of hypocrisy, right? There was a show, some of you guys know it. It's called The Simpsons, right? And there was a cashier named Apu. He was voiced by a white actor. And eventually they had to recast because, the climate. And it was a lot of conservatives, the same ones who were outraged about this. They were saying that this was cancel culture. And they just were outraged because they were like, the guy who did Apu, the original Apu, he was funny, it was hilarious. But if you look back at it, you can see where as a Southeast, or as a South Asian, the stereotypes, you can see how that could be offensive, right? But it was kind of seen as, hey, these libs are being too soft, right? Bomani Jones, this is a former ESPN employee, and he was on television and he wore a shirt that said Caucasians. It was a shirt that was kind of mimicking the Redskins logo, and it was just complete outrage because it showed an Anglo-Saxon male kind of being a caricature and it was called Caucasians, kind of mimicking the Redskins logo, and it was the same outrage. So these things pop up. They pop up from time to time, right? And speaking of that, the Washington Redskins, right? I just brought up Bomani Jones, but the Washington Redskins, when the Washington Redskins said that they were going to change their image from obviously an offensive image to some of those who are Native American as, you know, offensive. So they changed the logo, and conservatives were outraged, and some of them are even calling for the team right now to change their team back to the Redskins instead of the Commanders. So they want the slur back as a team name instead of the current team name, which is the Commanders, right? So it's funny that it's always too far, or it's reverse racism when the joke is on them, right? And as we speak about reverse racism, I'm thinking to myself, what in the hell is reverse racism? Because racism is racism. There's no reverse version that's needed. Because if you add reverse, it assumes that racism is only supposed to flow one way. In other words, we're supposed to be the ones that's giving out racism. It shouldn't be any other groups that's giving out racism. So the irony is, when you say reverse racism, it kind of admits, it's kind of like admitting racism is bad. And it's essentially DEI in practice. And conservatives hate DEI. What do they call it? Oh my God. I had made one video on these guys. They were all under my comment section, right? But they hate DEI. But when you say reverse racism, it's mirroring diversity, equity, inclusion. It mirrors the same principle. So the question is, why Druski did it? As I said earlier, Druski is not a Che Guevara. He's not out here making a cultural thesis or breaking down patriarchy come on. It wasn't that. This was a moment that he could capture outrage, virality. He can get the engagement. And his stuff has even made it to Fox News. His stuff has made it to Fox News because people were so outraged, it made it on a segment on Fox News, and it's viral. And not only is that clip viral, it's being shared on several different platforms. They're cutting it up. People are making reactions like I'm making reactions. And this is ultimately what Druski wants, right? So he's already won. He's already won. In his mind, he's already surpassed the metrics that he had set in his mind, right? Because if nobody really cared, that would be an abysmal failure. So whiteface does not equal blackface historically, but the offense is still offense. I can't tell you whether you should be offended or you should not be offended, right? People got the right to say what they're offended about or if they're offended. But the problem that I'm getting at with this video is inconsistency, right? Until these standards apply equally across the board, unilaterally, these outrage cycles will keep repeating. So, I don't know, man. What do you guys think, man? It's the hot topic. People are offended. People are outraged. But in another couple years, 5 years or so, we'll be back talking about this again. Brian Discerner Thoughts. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'm out. Peace.